Right. Welcome back. We have another episode of BILLINICO commentary. And today we're going to be talking about Shannon Sharpe. As everyone knows, or a lot of people know, Shannon Sharpe is under some serious allegations, or he's facing some serious allegations at the moment. Um, and, I find it pretty interesting. There's some, what can I say, some societal aspects of this situation that have been, you know, they've been present in the society in multiple times. And one time that, crossed my mind was the early 1900s with, for a lot of people that probably don't know, famous Jack Johnson. Who is Jack Johnson? Well, Jack Johnson was a famous black boxer. And actually, he was the very first, I repeat, the first black heavyweight champion. And yes, of boxing, the first black heavyweight champion of boxing. And he, at the time, was, facing charges of, he was linked to white women. And he had a wife, I believe, that he married. And he had a prostitute that he dealt with. Fast forward to today, Shannon Sharpe is dealing with a, some would say, which would be, what would be a modern day prostitute, which is an OnlyFans model, who was accusing him of doing some malicious things while they were together. Now, some people are saying it wasn't malicious, that was, dirty talk, and he's alleging that. And that's what his side and his defense team is probably going to present if this goes any further. That, hey, this was all consensual. The dialogue that you heard was consensual dialogue, and it was part of our kink or our sexual dialogue. It wasn't real. I never actually did that to her or intended to do that to her. Now, Jack Johnson, who was in 1913 convicted of the Mann Act, which prevented interracial dating. Now, I'm not sure what else details happened with him in that time with the woman he was dealing with, but just for him dating a white woman, he was convicted of a crime. Now, obviously, people aren't convicting people in interracial relationships, but there is a strong underlying narrative of black people criticizing Shannon Sharpe for dating or messing with a white OnlyFans woman. People are claiming that, hey, you should have known better. You should have picked better. As if any other race of women wouldn't have done that. So fast forward 100 years ago, or 100 years now, in the present, the black people are practicing what were once Jim Crow laws. They're practicing it on each other. So I was watching the Joe Budden podcast. As you know, we use the Joe Budden podcast as a case study for society, or a segment of society, a demographic of society, the black community that leans liberal or traditionally leans liberal. They also have Mark Lamont Hill, who's a new member of the cast, and he's going to give his thoughts. So, they claim to be pro-black and they're for black people. And they're very, against racism. But yet they practice it in subtle ways, or they support the very things that they're supposedly against. So we're going to let the video play, and then we're going to give our commentary, and then go from there. And actually, let's dive deep a little more into the Mann Act before we play the podcast, just so we can get some context. Let's see. So first, the law itself, the Mann Act, aka the White Slave Traffic Act. Wow, passed in 1910 to fight forced prostitution across state lines. Its catch-all phrase, any other immoral purpose, gave prosecutors a wide leash. Rather than protecting the vulnerable, it became a tool to police relationships, especially interracial ones. So this is key. This law was in place in the early 1900s. It was passed in 1910. Fast forward today, we have modern feminism, right? We have Me Too. That happened, the Me Too movement. So you would have people thinking that if a man is, look at things that are Sean Combs is accused of, Jay-Z are accused of, a lot of wealthy people are accused of, they are accused of human trafficking women if they fly a woman that is, offering them relations, whether sexual or non-sexual. There's these blurred lines. And it's ironic that these same lines are very similar to things that happened in the past. The Mann Act says it was used to fight forced prostitution across state lines, which is understandable, but it gave prosecutors. Tony Busby is a prosecutor. It gave them a wide leash. So instead of protecting real victims and real, victims of prostitution or forced prostitution from really violent people, it became a tool to police relationships. So is that what's going on in modern day? Because you have a woman who it appears, and this may not be true, but people are saying that she set up the phone call. And if she's really not a victim, what about the people that really are victims? And it makes people second guess their case. This is very, 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 very tricky. And that whole legacy of Jack Johnson being a strong black man, and Shannon Sharpe being a strong black man, and the dynamic of, a stronger, buff black man and, a small white woman. Think of King Kong, which was allegedly based off Jack Johnson. This is very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. And it's almost like Tony Busby is the modern day, James Mann. And whether it's valid, it's, that's something to look at. People want to do their research and see it, These are just key facts to the case. He criminalized, James Mann criminalized transporting women for immoral purposes. What's going on today? Well, people are criticizing Shannon Sharpe along with Tony Busby, saying, hey, pay your fine of $10 million for doing quote unquote immoral things with this young girl who's legal, who made her own choice, allegedly. And it's vague, right? What situations can a man really say or really do to protect himself other than, NDAs or consent agreements? Because you can be, because the time, the current climate in this time is so tricky that, you can weaponize your relationships, things that you've said in your relationships, the sexual nature of your relationships that were once consensual. But any piece of that evidence or any piece of your, it could be a picture, a video, something you said, any piece of that can be archived or used as an artifact of evidence. It can be taken out of context, right? So I understand the argument when people say you have to protect yourself, and also understand the argument when people are saying flat out this is wrong, which it is wrong because people I'm not saying this young lady is or Tony Busby is, but people can take advantage of this thing. And that's why the Mann Act of the early 1900s was so controversial. And Trump, even, I think in 2018, he pardoned the late Jack Johnson. Think about that. 100 years later, over 100 years later, he pardoned Jack Johnson for that crime. So what did they know 100 years later to definitively say, you know what, we're going to exonerate this guy who's already gone? Now we have Shannon Sharpe, who is he's being hung up on the cross, and it's crazy because he was the platform that Cat Williams went to, and now he is next one up on that Summer Jam screen. And or other words, he is the next one up, in front of the masses to be dissected. And now you have a prosecutor going after him. Let's see. Jack Johnson was a heavyweight champion of the world in 1908, known as the Galveston Giant. He unapologetically dated white women, similar to Shannon Sharpe. He dated Lucille Cameron and Belle Schreiber at a time when Jim Crow anxieties were at a fever pitch. In 1912, he was indicted under the Mann Act. By June 1913, an all-white jury convicted him. He fled the country only to serve 10 months in Leavenworth upon surrendering in 1920. Where's Russell Simmons at right now? Right? So it seems like this system is still doing the same things that it's been doing, if you're following me. And if you're not, then, that's cool as well. Hope you enjoy the content. Hope you enjoy the history, because this is still history and a lot of people probably didn't know these things. So some points to hit. Marriage. He was married to Lucille and she willingly married him. That triggered him for prosecution at that time. So things have gotten better. You can marry a white woman now and not go to jail for that. He was convicted 1 year in prison, and he paid a $1,000 fine. He was exiled from the country for 7 years, and he had a posthumous pardon in 2018 by Trump. So that basically said that was done wrongly. Right now, as so far we know, is that Shannon Sharpe had a consensual relationship. So until other evidence is presented, that's what we know. In 1933, which is about 20 years or 15 to 20 years after the Jack Johnson issue, Hollywood codified Johnson's fearsome image in King Kong. A massive black beast kidnaps a white woman, an unmistakable riff on Johnson's interracial relationships. The movie taps into white America's panic, the forbidden union, the need to slam the lid shut. So there was that racial subtext in the King Kong series, right? Beast versus beauty, public anxiety over black male sexuality, right? Because what came out was that he's aggressive, he's strong, he's black, and you hear her, she's not crying, she's not screaming, she's not like, oh, stop. She's saying it like in this subtle, seductive way, like she's participating in the dance, of alpha and the beta sub. So, and I'm not saying that's true, but that's what some people can say. Fast forward to today. Shannon Sharpe, $50 million lawsuit from Jane Doe, alleging multiple issues during the 2-year relationship. Sharpe denies it, labels it a shakedown, and he's stepping away from ESPN until July 31st preseason. Right? So he offered her $10 million. She refused. Sharpe is let's see, hold on. Let's see. Johnson was vilified as a beast in the media. He even had movies like King Kong that were loosely based on him. And as we see, Sharpe is battling court of public opinion today. And because we're obviously not in the Jim Crow times, black people are also dogging him as well, if not dogging him out more. But it's ironic because this is Uncle Shannon. This is Uncle. And, I was watching Angry Man earlier, so he made some good points that, the black community who, rocks with someone so heavy can switch up. And it's like, he's been your uncle, he's been your dude, very successful. We had a blow up a year, and it's interesting how quick people turned on him because of some actions he made that were legal. But because it's a white woman, it makes it different. So we have the media framing, sensational headlines versus sober analysis, which is what we're doing. The societal fear of black male power, because somehow these strong or powerful black men, not I should probably say strong, but powerful black men, or strong, I guess you're right, physically strong or monetarily strong. These strong black men just keep going down, and it has to do with sexual things. It's just interesting. Big money is playing a role in silencing or shaping narratives. What is the big money? Lawsuits? Just say law, right? And the media. Two of the biggest factors in this world, in this timeline that we're in. Obviously there's God's law, which we respect, but there's man's law. And laws are introduced and laws are taken away. Right now we have Donald Trump in office, so I'm not sure if he has any say in this or if he can influence this at all. But considering that he did pardon Jack Johnson posthumously, I wonder what he thinks about this situation in terms of the dynamics between not just black men and white women or white OnlyFans models, but just men and women relationships in general. Just the threat of accusations. Just the ability to say, you know what, I had a relationship with this person. There's a video of us. We were rough this one time. I'm going to clip it and I'm going to say this person did this. Or maybe I don't even have videos. I'm just going to say this person did this and I'm going to essentially blackmail them. Right? But hold on, let's play a little bit of this and then we'll go.
So you can't just bring me, I'm a different plus one.
Yeah. He screenshot it, cropped a little box, and posted it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it seems like there's just a lot of stuff with black people that looks like they're kind of enjoying seeing Sharpe fall and they're making fun of him. And the black community is kind of known for that. If you grew up with black people or friends with them or your family, or if you're just black yourself, you just notice that. And you could say it's a way to, laugh, to keep from crying and, dealing with the trauma of, just seeing powerful people fall or feeling like that's your destiny, maybe. You have to realize the narrative, if you're not careful, all you can download is that black men just aren't the top. The criminal aspect, the sexual nature has been a thing. Black men are hypersexual. They criticize the rap. They don't criticize Playboy. Playboy is a legacy. It showed women in a sexy light, but rap, it's hypersexual. When the black men do it, it's hypersexual. It's just conversation, things that you can consider. I'm not saying anything's right or wrong, but my commentary is valid. Why is it okay for one group to do something and it's not okay for another group to do something? And it's even worse because this was beat into so many people's head that now they're starting to police themselves, the black people.
He took,
Yeah, you know.
which made it look to some people, including myself, even less authentic.
Absolutely.
So I think they're referring to him making a post. And Uncle, Shannon is, I would call him Uncle Shannon. Shannon is an older dude. Maybe he really is not familiar with social media. Give him some grace for that. They're making fun of him. Like, look, he doesn't know how to use social media. Instead of saying, oh, wait, he really doesn't know how to use social media. Maybe he really made a mistake with the Michelle thing. I'm not sure about that. But, if there's a consistent, track record of certain things when it comes to him using social media or technology, and it doesn't look like he knows what he's doing, you have to, give some credence to that. Maybe he really did accidentally, post himself having that, that act with that girl.
Because it's like it looked like you may not even read it.
You didn't.
And it's interesting to me to see Mark Lamont Hill, who's supposed to be about black people, black empowerment. He supports women wholeheartedly. But when it comes to his black brothers, it's very harsh, almost malicious, almost like he enjoys it. I find that interesting. Like I said, has this been beat into people to hate themselves, hate what looks like them, hate what they relate to?
Read it.
You know what I'm saying? Like PR team just
screenshot and hit tweet.
But what the message effectively said was that he's stepping away from ESPN to deal with this unfair attack that he's receiving, but that he'll be back by the start of the NFL preseason.
Yeah, I read that.
Which is interesting, right?
Oh.
No, I was going to say one more thing. I spoke to 2 executives at ESPN the day before.
Fucking journalist right here.
Right?
Yeah.
And what they told me was that he wasn't returning to ESPN.
I find this interesting, that comment. Because if he's really, really looking out for his black brother, or his black brothers, one, he's going to wait to see if he's really guilty or not. Unless he has some definitive proof that he's guilty, then maybe, he'll hang him out to dry. Right now, he's hanging out Shannon Sharpe to dry. Because one, he didn't have to make this comment. He didn't have to let the world know this broadcast, this public broadcast. The Joe Budden podcast might as well be CNN right now. The amount of views that he gets. Which is interesting while he also brought in Mark Lamont Hill. Because media has changed. Legacy media is gone. I have to shout out Angry Man again. Because he talks about this, and I don't want people to think I'm stealing talking points or anything like that. But I'm also well aware that legacy media is going away. Legacy media is going away, and we have these new media platforms. And the new media platforms are like these hybrid platforms, right? They're not clean cut, but some of the messaging that they're putting out is actually still the same. It's going to yield similar results. Follow me. CNN pushed a liberal message, and it harmed certain targets of men. Some people could say black straight men were strategically targeted in certain ways, allegedly from CNN. Now, ironically, you have someone who is a, former CNN person. Now he's on the Joe Budden podcast. And you can argue that, yes, this is a black man ran network, but the messaging, right? Messaging is important. And back to what made me really start this tangent is he's going to say, hey, I found out through doing my, investigative reporting that Shannon Sharpe he's let go. It's done. It's over with. So he put that out publicly to this new media broadcast. What do you think that does to Shannon Sharpe's negotiation or leverage? Public, appeal. That's going to dump it. It's going to make it even worse. So Mark Lamont Mill knows this. He's intelligent. He's making it even harder for Shannon Sharpe right now because Shannon Sharpe put out a statement. So you're just adding to making Shannon Sharpe look disingenuous, a liar, and inconsistent, which is okay. I mean, whatever. But from someone like Mark Lamont Hill, who claims to be about black power, black empowerment, protecting black people, does this not apply to the men? And it's ironic that it doesn't apply to the men, given the history of this country. And look who's doing it, though. That's what we have to pay attention to. Look who are the people that are contributing to this. Obviously, the white woman, the white lawyer, and then you have this black man. Pay attention. And this is allegedly, this is commentary, read the disclaimer. But, you just have to put some things together and just ask some questions sometimes.
Like that they were already going to cut him. So I'm
also, if you guys mess with me, go to BILLINICO.com or hit my Cash App. I'm gonna leave my Cash App in my descriptions. And also I don't do live, so just hit my Cash App or go to BILLINICO.com, subscribe, or buy some products. We got some new merch, some new designs. And that's your way to show that you're contributing to the message and this positivity, because we are all taking our time out to have these discussions, and you have to support what supports you, right? And these messages and these conversations aren't being had haphazardly. This is some historical stuff going on, and historical context is included, with the story of Jack Johnson, and, just support stuff like that, support people. Sometimes you're thinking, hey, I'm just making someone else rich. You have to make an investment at certain points in your life, right? And you have to make the proper investments. So if I invest in Tesla, knowing it's down now, but I believe that, the company's innovative and it's going to grow, and it's better for me. And I believe in the company and the products. I think it's better for the environment or better for the world. I'm going to put money there because I know I'm going to get a return in multiple ways. Or NVIDIA. I believe in chips, and chips are here. And sometimes it just is what it is. If you're a man, not even a black man, but if you're a man in general and you see a YouTuber speaking about issues that are actually valid, that can actually gain some traction and, gain support and, be talked about and bring a counter argument to the table that can protect you and protect your interests, right? And can also grow, right? Because this content can grow. This product can grow. It can increase, especially when you have someone that's willing to reinvest in the product, reinvest in the message. So support the right things. Doesn't have to be me. It should be me because, we got the best stuff on the market. But, that's what we're doing. That's the plan. That's the goal. So show love. And, everything's alleged. Nothing is in stone. But that's where we're at with it. Let's continue.
wondering if either they change their mind, or I got to put all the possibilities out there.
Sure.
Or this is his team trying to preempt that. Like I'm gonna take a break before y'all officially fire me, because now they can't say he's fired, and hoping it just dies and goes away.
The second that he said he would be back at the start of NFL preseason, I took my hands out. Started just doing.
Can't be laughing at that, bro. Not your black brother.
Doing some counting.
For sure.
August. Oh shit, August is right there.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
So
not
let
far.
me be the third.
I mean, news cycles in this society change very quickly. Very quickly. I'm not going to count them out yet. It really depends. Maybe they could get a settlement. But if there's other things popping up, then that could be a problem. But, maybe he could get a settlement. And then if he could get a settlement, keep it very quiet. He could possibly start. But, he also may not be able to keep it quiet enough. He may not be able to reach an agreement. Or maybe he wants to take it to trial and just discredit her altogether, not giving her any money. That's something he has to have to weigh. Sometimes you have to put the bigger picture on the table, right? You might have to let go of that job. You might have to, you have your own business. You have your own way of making revenue. So go all in on that. Go even more on that product. Start your own morning show. Does anyone think a Shannon Sharpe morning show would do fairly well? Possibly. So,
person to tell you, Dr. Mark Lamont, Shannon Sharpe will not be back at the start of NFL preseason
Or season. Or playoffs.
Or postseason.
Shannon Sharpe will never see the ESPN airwaves again, and we wish that on no one. But he won't be back in August. But
Wait, time out. If he were to be acquitted, exonerated, whatever the
won't.
word is,
It can't work.
not
It's
by,
too bad. It's
not
too-
by August.
It's too bad now.
now it's interesting here. The white guy's saying, hey, well, if everything's good, and, we know it's BS, really, but, he's exonerating all that good stuff. I mean, it's a lie. He can start again. It's not true. The black guys, no, we can't get away with nothing. No, you know that. They not, no, sir. They pay attention. Let's repeat this.
wait, time out. If he were to be acquitted, exonerated, whatever the
won't.
word is,
He's giving hope. He's saying, well, logically, guys, if you didn't do something, you're good to go. And they're like, no, nah. He's done for. We know how this goes. We know how your peoples are. Oh, man. I'm just messing with y'all, man. This is commentary, man. Y'all talk, we talk. It is what it is. Well, you see what I'm saying, right? Arcs are saying, wait a minute. If everything comes out negative, they lose, he's good to go. They're like, no, whether he wins, lose, it don't matter. It's over, man. This is what happens to black. We just, it is what it is. We lay down and fold. Man, get up. Get up. Y'all know what's right, man. Fight that.
It can't work.
It's too bad. It's
not
too,
by August.
It's too bad now.
Well, yes, but I'm saying certainly not by August.
It's the noise again.
Like, great, you won't be with Disney through the drama.
Yeah.
are those his?
Nightcap is Shay Shay isn't. Shay Shay's owned by
Volume, right?
Volume.
Yeah.
Do they know this? I thought Shay was owned by him. Nightcap was owned by him. But they have deals with the Volume. I didn't know that the Volume owned it. Or maybe they own a piece of it. I doubt that. I thought they just had a deal. A partnership deal. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, he makes a lot of money for people. And if you don't have a brand, if you're not brand conscious, like these YouTube channels generally aren't, you'll be fine. Now,
He said these YouTube channels generally aren't brand. That's not true. We're very brand conscious over here. We are very brand conscious over here at BILLINICO, man. BILLINICO. That's why. What's our slogan at BILLINICO? Live with no fear. Why is our slogan live with no fear? Look at the things we're talking about. Look at the things we're bringing up. Go back in some of our past videos and the topics we talk about and the subjects we talk about. Go to the website. Do the research. We are very brand conscious over here. This is something that is going to outlast me. This is something that my children can appreciate. My children can live off of. Will live off of. Why? Because this stands for a message of fearlessness, speaking truth to power, breaking down tough subjects, spreading a good message to people, building men up, promoting leadership, promoting business acumen, promoting free thinking, independent thinking, promoting courage. BILLINICO stands for billionaire. Nico in Greek means victor. Victory of the people. Billionaire, victory of the people. Live with no fear. The goal used to be, we want to be millionaires. Now, what's wrong with being a billionaire? If you're a billionaire, why can't you be for the people? See, they want to paint billionaires as bad because they want to make it seem like just being a winner to the ultimate level. There's something wrong with that. There has to be something evil behind it. And sometimes it is. Let's not act like this system doesn't have bad players at the highest levels. Sometimes There are people that are so ambitious, so creative. They reach the highest of the highs. And then sometimes they can be of you. They can be really for you. And you can tear them down. That's why this Shannon Sharpe thing is interesting, because he was the dude last year. That makes you think. Listen to Jay-Z's song, Most Kings. Most kings get their heads cut off. Success is like suicide. Suicide is a suicide. If you succeed, prepare to be crucified. When I heard that, it's like, whoa. And what made me pay attention to that song, which is like, that's like not even a B cut. That's like a C cut, Jay-Z record. But the way he says it, the way he's rapping the song, it's like he meant it. And then he says, see Malcolm, see Martin, or see Martin, see Malcolm. Then he starts naming out, see Caesar, see Judas, see Jesus, not Judas. Like, it makes you think like, whoa. Being that Michael Jackson, Martin Luther King, Tupac, Malcolm X, Julius Caesar, Jesus Christ, Jay-Z, it came from him. Sean Combs. It's like, okay, Bill Cosby. I'm talking about people that at once they was it. But it's a dangerous world, man. Dangerous game, but at the same time, it's a beautiful world. This is still God's world, and God shows us that this is His world every day. So it's important to use your discernment. Think clearly, remain sober. A lot of these things are, brought to ourselves, and that might be controversial because it's not illegal, the things that are going on, right? But it's important to remain disciplined, and that's why I got to give Jason Whitlock credit for, pushing that discipline, point. Control yourself, control your sexual urges. And, even though it's not necessarily wrong to express yourself because we are human, but because of the environment that we're in, you have to be aware. And that ties into, our lessons for entrepreneurs, right? Power dynamics and narrative control shape the markets and movements, right? So your reputation matters. So you have to act like a different person. You can't do the same things that other people do. You can't recklessly call people and say certain things on the phone. You have to be aware that public perception can make or break your brand or any brand. Also, entrepreneurs, you have to realize that there's a myth versus reality, right? You can't always you should dig into primary sources, but don't dig too deep into the headlines and take those for face value. Do your research. We have technology right now. I use ChatGPT to accelerate my thought process, and I ask certain questions, and I bring up historical context and tie it in with this, and that helps me digest the information even faster. And we have to consider the equity and accountability, right? Understand the historical biases that still influence today's legal and media landscapes. So the actual equity that we have in terms of media narrative is still not the strongest. We have shows now, such as the Joe Budden podcast, but look what he's using his equity in the media space. Look what they're using their power to do. Now, thank God we have channels like The Angry Man, Anton Daniels. These guys are up there and they're almost at 1 million subscribers and more. So they're competing in this space. But that shows why media is important, why platforms like this is important. Even the late, great Kevin Samuels, him reaching the numbers that he reached and pushing the message that he was able to push, because he's influencing the world. That's why media, having equity in media is important, not diversity, equity, inclusion, so I could get a job. How about owning a media platform that can actually influence thoughts and thinking, right? We have equity when it comes to being workers and consumers. Right now, we need equity in thoughts, narratives, research. We need to own these aspects of the world and contribute to that more. So we're going to play a little bit more, and then I think we're going to wrap it up. We might do a part 2 or follow-up, because this subject might go deeper, depending on what's revealed. So
I'm sure he lost a hell of a large bag.
You might take some of the little logos off the
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That shit's gonna be.
Yeah, he's having a lot of private conversations in the back channels.
Yeah.
For certain.
So I don't know if he. And just the shit he's acknowledged he did.
Yep.
Looks absolutely nuts with this little tiny OnlyFans girl.
Listen, I am for.
with this little tiny OnlyFans girl, it looks nuts. Why does it look nuts? What about it's legal. Just because she's tiny, there's big white dudes that have little white girls. Look at Leonardo DiCaprio, look at Paul Walker, would be rest in peace. I don't want to disparage him, but Bill Belichick, what was the dude's name that actually owned the Patriots? The dude from Donald Sterling. And I'm not saying anything's right or wrong, but there's Hugh Hefner. There were older men that had young girls since the beginning of time, for years in this country. Now all of a sudden it's a problem, and he's saying, "Look at you." So that's $10 million for him. He has to pay a $10 million fine. That's inflation on the Mann Act fine in modern day times. Shannon, pay your $10 million so you get off this case. And not only that, they're ramping up the fines, because any girl can come out and demand some money. And they're saying because they had, maybe they had rough sexual encounters or whatever, but it was consensual. You can't prove that it wasn't consensual because she never proved that it wasn't unconsensual. There's nothing that came out. All we know is that, man, it was a little freaky. And he's a big black dude. She's a small white young girl. It was legal. Is it ideal? No. Is it ideal for Leonardo to do what he does? Is it ideal for Hugh Hefner to do what he did? Is it ideal for Bill Belichick to date his young chick? Are any of these things ideal? No. But they're not paying $10 million. Right? Or at least not yet.
41 years old. My wife is 31 years old. We were at a college bar in Elmira this last weekend, which
Turn
is
up.
all probably 21, 22-year-olds. And I felt anxious and weird and had to get the fuck up out of there.
Yeah.
So he's saying, listen, I was 41. I was around some 20-year-olds. I felt weird. Okay. That means that you don't want to be in an environment with 20-year-olds. Shannon Sharpe was with a sex worker, essentially, or an OnlyFans, because she sells sex. So she sells sex. The woman that is accusing Shannon Sharpe sells sex, and she's a young sex worker. But there's no age limit to the sex worker age, sex worker customer. You have to be legal to even post on OnlyFans, right? So you're verified your age to even get on the platform, right? Yes, right or wrong. So she's verified on the platform. She's selling sex, which is her product, her body, and her sexual acts. He is a customer, but now he is being blackmailed into paying $10 million. He's not going with her to college bars and being around a crowd that he doesn't relate to. He's having sexual acts with a young OnlyFans model who sells that.
And
weird.
obviously, we have no interest in sleeping with any of these people. I don't.
You don't want to talk to him, damn near.
I don't want.
What does this have to do with her, who is an OnlyFans model? What are they trying to rationalize right now? He wasn't at no college bars around college students. He was doing sexual acts with a sexual person that is on a sexual app selling sexual products. This makes no sense, their argument. And they are going to have a cognitive dissonance with this because they know what OnlyFans is. They know what it's for, but they're punishing him for using that for that. Or maybe I think they met at a gym, but that's still what she promoted. They weren't in a relationship. They were just having sexual encounters and relations. Interesting.
I don't even want them to look at me or blood.
Our world should not.
We should not coexist.
Now what they're doing is like they're being extra. I don't want this and that. Listen, it's okay to say, you know what? Yeah, you could date a young girl. To each his own. I don't want to do it because I don't relate to him. Say that. But they over here doing this white knight, and women are gonna think, oh yeah, yeah, you see that? It's creepy. These dudes look at young girls probably because they shaking and shivering because they're afraid of what society is gonna say if they say the wrong things, right? And they don't want to look crazy, so they're just like, oh no, not me. I don't even. I went to a bar. There was 20. Ooh. Just say, man, it was whack in there. These was little kids, and they were like, sounding crazy to me, and I don't want to be around it. That is what it is. That young 19-year-old, I wouldn't date her. I wouldn't even try to smash her on the OnlyFans thing because she looked like a little kid to me. But if someone else is on that app and he's attracted to her body and what she's posting on there, she is legal. It is what it is. Now, you should probably raise a child or have a society where you don't have this option where OnlyFans workers even exist. Because we can't promote women freedom and, they can, do OnlyFans themselves and they can get paid for what they want to do. And then, shame Shannon Sharpe at the same time. It makes no sense.
His kids are older.
I'm 15 years younger.
His kids are older. Bruh, your kids are older too when you still say that it's okay for women to do OnlyFans. You say women have the right to do what they want with their bodies. You say that, Melissa Ford say it. Are you guys anti OnlyFans now? Is there an age limit to a customer on an OnlyFans website?
Than him,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
His kids are older than that girl.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
I don't judge age gaps. Obviously, I just said that me and my wife have a 10-year age gap.
Yeah, I got a 10 years as well.
Look, I got a 10. Oh man, these guys are frazzled.
Fucking with teenagers is crazy to me.
Yep.
Well, I think the fact that she's on OnlyFans, that's the only thing, because she's promoting a very, very, very fast, hypersexual version of a young woman, right? And traditionally, that's not what you want. It's not ideal. It's not traditional. And I understand why would you want to marry that, date that. But in terms of historical, look at Playboy. Look at, it is what it is. There are a segment of women that as soon as they become of age, they are selling themselves. They are selling themselves. Now, that doesn't mean that they should be violated or assaulted, but they cannot take things out of context and use that as leverage in order to destroy someone. Maybe there should be a different discussion that, hey, we should have a culture where we don't even have the opportunity for young ladies to be hypersexualized to the point where when they're legal, they're offering themselves to older men for money, usually as well. So they are prostituting themselves. Look at the music that the women are making. What's the Cardi B? F a dude and get some money. Ooh, that's literally the F a dude and get some money. Ooh, where do you think she got that from? So she's of age, using her sexual powers to target someone, make him aroused. Right? Her culture and the music and I guess the modern culture is promoting F a dude and get some money. She just followed her assignment. Oh, am I making this up? Are they gonna? It's literally music. Cardi B's, City Girls, Sweetie, Glorilla. Says my man is your man and your man is her man. And what are we talking about? What are we really talking about here?
It's wild. So he also, because there's a few angles you play when you get caught in a situation like this. One is I didn't do it. Two, whoever they is, are setting me up. So we tend to close ranks around people who get set up. You lose they're setting me up when you 54.
He said he didn't do it, and this is a money grab. So there's no they, because he's told you who. So there's no they trying to make it seem like it's a conspiracy. He's telling you who he dealt with. We know the lawyer who's prosecuted other people you originally said that you didn't really align with, but now you're changing your narrative because other information came out and you're seeing where TikTok is going. You're seeing where Black TikTok is going, probably where Black Twitter is going, and you're roasting Shannon Sharpe along with them. That's probably why you're changing your narrative.
With a 19-year-old that you met at the gym. You know what I mean?
Stop right there. That's another thing I had to get clarity on when I went home and had time to think to myself. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't.
What, meet her at the gym?
You didn't.
That I think that's even better for him. I don't know why he probably met her on OnlyFans. He probably met her on. That's even better for him. Y'all saying it like no, that's even better. He met her on OnlyFans with intentions to do what she was doing on the app. That app, you cannot go on that app unless you are legal of age, which does the work for Shannon Sharpe legally. So legally, you did not break a law. He can say, I met this girl on this app. She was of age. We talked. She talked like this. She wanted to do this. And then we did it. It got a little rough, a little crazy. I said some things. She said some things, and that's it. There's no marks. There's no bruises. I never did anything like that to her. It was just consensual, and that was it. There's a video that she recorded, and we said this some of the same things, but after that, here's the timeline here, and this is when we met after. She wanted to see me again at this date. This go alongs with this. And if you look at a history of track records, look at the Mann Act, this is actually repeating that narrative of the past, and I feel violated. And what's the word? I want damages from Tony Busby. And actually, Disney, if you fire me, I want damages from them in the historical nature of the Black narrative and the blackmail narrative and what they've done. But y'all got to think like this, right? And you need media platforms to back that up. It's an interesting time, bro. I think Shannon Sharpe, he definitely cooned sometimes. I wasn't a fan of the black and mild thing, the do-rag on the set. I wasn't a fan of that. And I'm not a fan of you always trying to, you support the Black Lives Matter thing, the Kaepernick thing. I wasn't a fan of that. But right is right and wrong is wrong. So, you have a chance to represent yourself and your people in a certain way. So you could fight it if you know you didn't do the wrong thing and possibly win. but you have to do it the right way. You have to use the right strategy.
You didn't. That's something that was able to fly last time when we were just recording there. Oh, I met her in the gym. All right, cool. Once I seen it, you was not just on.
A theory's been floated by his bodyguard. He did a tweet and delete.
Absolutely love tweet and delete.
Fuck NDA. That's, non-disclosure agreement. Fuck NDA. That nigga Shannon met his hoe at a Diddy party when she was 17.
Yikes.
Watch Cat back, and you'll understand me. And watch the Cat Williams interview back from 2024. Now, again, I don't know if it's true. I don't know anything about it, but this is another piece of information in response to what you just said.
Without knowing if it's true.
I don't know the reference from the Cat.
What he's saying is watch the Cat Williams.
So they're saying that Cat Williams, he was not just talking about these other people. He was talking about Shannon too. He's sitting in front of Shannon telling him about Shannon himself and the other Hollywood people, which could be really wild, which I think he probably was. Let's go into that bag. No conspiracy or conspiracy, whatever. Cat was telling him, listen, they coming for you. I know I got the information. I know what the playbook is. Well, we'll see what it plays out to.
Shannon Sharpe interview when he was talking about Puff and the Puff parties and in relation to meeting white girls and what white women will do to you. The Kang conversation that he mentioned, Jonathan Majors.
Okay.
They kind of
Jonathan Majors, Kang. Kang, King Kong. Hey, it is what it is, right?
He kind of had this same conversation with him.
I saw that, yeah.
But
I can't play too much
this way because I know about everything I'm saying. I have receipts. I can talk. So if you put any validity to the tweet, it's like, all right, Cat Williams know about you and it's playing in your face.
Got it. I didn't catch that.
There was the information that he apparently settled, or Fox Sports settled.
Actually, we're going to pause it here. We're going to pause it here, and then we're going to come back and do a part 2. This is a lot of information. I don't want to play too much of that video. This episode just came out, and Joe Budden's usually good with letting you use his content for certain purposes like this. So I appreciate that as well, Joe Budden. Great podcast, and Mark Lamont Hill's nothing personal, but I find it very interesting. And we're gonna have to address some things, in terms of the commentary. Not in real life, and we don't have to talk or nothing like that. But play the video back and, like I said, support the show, support the channel, and do some deep dives and watch some of the old videos as well. So peace, love, and stay strong.